Welcome back, I'm Tedward. Welcome to Southern California, where it's a little dreary, even though it's June. There's the Pacific Ocean. And welcome to the 2024 Acura Integra Type S. This is the luxurious version for the North American market of the Civic Type R, just like my FL5. And boy, oh boy, does this thing have some tricks up its sleeve. Acura did not just copy-paste the Civic Type R and call it a day. No, they actually had their own development team. So while it certainly shares the same hardware, the K20 C1 inline 4-cylinder turbo, and its front-wheel drive with the limited slip differential and a bunch of other things, of course, on paper it looks the same. In practice, it is not. It has 5 extra horsepower, 320 to be exact, and it's putting all of that power to the ground through these 19-inch wheels on Pilot Sport 4S's. 265 section tires all around. The gold wheels look fantastic. We've got 4-pot Brembos doing our stopping work, and the wide body lines on this Integra are just beautiful. I think it's a handsome car. The front end looks incredible, and against the A-Spec, it looks so much more muscular. Now, the body lines here are all built into the fender. I'm a little disappointed with the rear, however, because just like the FK8 Type R, let's open this up, this is not a special door. This is not a bespoke door. This is just kind of stuck on. So while the Type R gets a special door for that purpose of being a wide body, this does not. Around back, we've got this incredible carbon spoiler looking very, very chic. And down here, the outrageous diffuser with our triple exhaust. And because this is a North American market car only, it doesn't have to abide by the rest of the world's standards for noise and sound restrictions. So they've removed the resonator up front from the Type R and added in some crackles and pops in Sport Plus mode. So now it sounds absolutely raucous. In addition to that, this has a capless filler for the fuel, just like the standard cars in North America. That is not the case on the Type R because it needs to fit all of the regulations for the rest of the world. Under the hood, purring like a kitten. Let's take a look. There she is, our K20 C1 with Acura cladding. It is not the Civic. It looks different. It doesn't say Type R on it. It says Type S, but typical injector noise, and I believe that's more sound deadening on the hood than you get on the Type R. So that's supposed to be luxurious as well. Beautiful hood vent stays. So all the functionality of what makes the Type R a little race car is stuck on this. In the rear, we've got reasonable trunk space, very different than the Type R because you've got a lower loading floor and no spare tire, but you do get your inflator and your filler funnel if you run out of gas, and a little cargo net right here. But the ELS Studio 3D sound system subwoofer in the back, it is incredible and probably worth the extra money because this costs $7,000 more than the FL5 does. But if you consider that it's tough to get an FL5 Civic without massive markups, this may start to come in line, and you'll probably likely get this closer to or at MSRP. In the rear, plenty of legroom. I'm 5'9", but no armrest, just center cup holders. In the front, you've got beautiful seats that are a little more mature than the racy red seats that you get in the Type R, so this is probably more acceptable at the office. But although they don't have quite as intense side bolstering, they do have some down here and here. It holds you in place pretty good, but this actually locks you in nice and good. Inside, let's get a little startup. Our glass display comes to life. Pretty standard stuff. We've seen this in the regular Integra and of course the FL5, but no shift lights. Down here, we get our Type S specific shift knob and a little suede shift boot. Pretty good. Type S down here. And you do have the nice color matched surrounds on the lower part of the dashboard for the passenger. That is Type S exclusive as well. You get 3 very distinct modes: a comfort, a sport, and a sport plus mode. Now the sport plus mode opens up that valve for the whole time, and it adds some crackles and pops. Now this car is definitely a lot softer than the Type R. The Type R is a pretty stiff vehicle, and this dials it down just a bit, just to the point where it's a little more usable on regular roads. So let's go find some regular roads and have some fun, because that is what this car is all about. It exists for the purpose of fun. California drivers, baby! So the shifter definitely feels a little different than the Type R. It's not quite as snick ratchety. It's got a little more of a damped weight to it. So I think they went for more of a luxury vibe on this. Brakes super firm, super planted. That is one of the hallmarks of the Type R that I really love. The steering weight is a little different than the Type R. It seems like, I don't know if it's heavier or if it's just slightly more damped, but there's definitely a difference where this feels slightly more substantial. The rear end of the Integra feels a lot more planted than that of the Civic Type R. I don't know if there's a different sway bar, but it definitely doesn't give me the same sort of tail-happy vibes that the Civic often does. It just sticks. And that's what you find about these cars. You end up just kind of like hunting around for small, subtle differences that you're like, hey, how did they basically re-engineer the same car to feel incredibly different? And that is kind of a fascinating thing as a driver, as like doing what I do to take two cars that are essentially the same underneath and decode them. Look at that differential doing work. This is like a crummy road too, but it's putting it down. You can really have fun with this car in places that are I love this road. Oh my goodness. You can have fun with this car in a tight, twisty road like this and out on a highway. I mean, it's 167 mile an hour top speed. Look at this. What a place. All right, let's put it in individual mode, because I believe we've got, what are we in? We've got comfort, suspension, and then everything else is in Sport Plus. So I'm very curious to see how this suspension behaves, because that's something that I do in my Type R. I do not often drive it in R plus or plus R mode suspension, because it's just so ridiculously tight and stiff that it's honestly, it's a little counteractive in what you want to do. So much confidence getting around corners in this car. The seats holding me in beautifully. So while they don't feel quite as aggressive as the Type R seats, they still have a lot of support, and there's slightly more side bolstering on the bottom of these seats than there is in the A-Spec, I believe. So not to mention the fact that you've got kind of this almost like Velcro effect with the suede on the center. The seating position in this car is really nice and low. I thought there was a chance that it might be too high because, you know, it's electronic as compared to the very manual seat on the Type R. But there's no compromise. I'm nice and low in the car, and the luxury of lumbar support. So if the Type R is just not cutting it for you because maybe that seat's not malleable enough to your body, this is. Wow, the little crackles and pops on this exhaust give it a character all its own. And without this front resonator that I have in the Civic, it opens up this exhaust in a way that makes it sound a lot more aggressive. Like, this is the sound of Honda that I'm used to. Look at this. Comfort suspension mode Definitely softer, more compliant, but not floppy. But this is a real canyon carver. It's also wild to think that this is on a 265 section tire all around. Now, maybe today that doesn't seem insane, but like my E92 M3, that was the rear tire section on an E92 M3. And that is now the square setup on the Type R and this. How absolutely incredible is it? How much grip we're getting from a $52,000 car or a $45,000 car if you're talking about Type R at MSRP. I think from a daily driving perspective, this Type S is superior to the Type R. It feels more well insulated. It feels a little more substantial. The engine definitely feels a little different, just a little different. It's just a tune, it feels like, but you know, maybe this is a tune people will start to put on their Type Rs because it's pretty darn good. Now, you obviously hear more of it because we've got the resonator delete up front, and then they've installed on this tune some fun little snaps and crackles and pops and all that good stuff, because man, oh man, does this sound way, way, way more raucous than the Honda. Now the steering wheel is interesting because I like the Type R steering wheel. It's all leather. This has sort of this leather with some perforation on it. And I think if they went with either the same steering wheel or an Alcantara, that would be a little more premium to me. This is like an interesting choice, and it's not the choice that I would necessarily have made. Luckily, that is a very easy thing to swap out if that's not your vibe. Maybe it is. Some steady state driving on a fairly loud road. Definitely more insulated than the Type R. The Type R, they took out insulation from the standard Civic. So when you take a Civic Touring and you take out that insulation, it definitely makes for more road noise, and it's a bit intrusive. You're on a PS4S, which is kind of an inherently loud tire. They're not the quietest, but I believe that these are a special Type S version of the 4S for this car, so it does take out a little bit of that tire noise, but the additional insulation in the car alone just makes this a lot more pleasant to be in on a long drive. So there you have it. The new 2024 Integra Type S is a very similar car to the Civic Type R. However, with some notable differences, more than what you see on paper, this has a character all its own. It has a different shifter feel. It has a different suspension feel. It dynamically drives a little differently because it's not quite as tail happy. It's quieter. It's more insulated. I've got heated seats. And it's a bit muted on the exterior. Obviously, it's quite muscular and aggressive, but it certainly isn't a hot boy racer with a wing like the Honda is. The Integra somehow, with all of the same parts essentially, became a different car. And maybe only those like me who drive them back to back will notice those differences specifically. But I do think that if you were in the market for one or the other, you will take a liking to one or the other, or you'll find the qualities that you like best in either. Either way, you already know I love this platform because I bought one. And I don't need to run out and jump into the Integra Type S to replace my Type R. I love my Type R. I'm going to keep it. But if it's easier to get a Type S due to supply or dealer markups, go for it. Also, if you're driving this day to day, this suspension is so much more compliant. It's not floppy in the canyons, and it has this insane exhaust system, which is kind of surprising that the luxury car, the luxury Acura, has the more rowdy exhaust. It makes me want to go and put this exhaust on my Type R because I think it's really good. I think it's really fun. I would like the tune that gives me a little snap, crackle, and pop, which isn't usually my jam, but it's just enough. It's not an offensive amount that I think it works for it. So this definitely strikes a balance between being luxury and rowdy, but the team at Acura has made this thing special, and they've made it their own. Now, all the Acuras, of course, are made in Ohio in the US, whereas the Civic Type R is made in Japan. I haven't seen anything in this car that indicates to me that, like, oh boy, it doesn't have that Japanese build, like that's the Ohio car. No, I don't see that at all. So if that's something that you were worried about, you could pretty much mute that. There's no squeaks or rattles, and man, oh man, I do dig the suspension. Maybe I can swap this module into my car. So that is gonna do it for me, for my first drive, first impressions out here in California of the Integra Type S. I do hope that they send me one for a week so I can compare it directly back to back with my Honda, the same way I did with the A-Spec against my Civic Si. There's a lot of subtle nuances here that are different, and I feel like you need to spend a lot of time with it to figure it out. So thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. There is one little Easter egg that I want to show you. So first, here is the Type S key, unrelated to what I'm about to show you. But if you come down into this thing and pull out the little rubber guy, underneath the little rubber guy is the first Honda Civic. And it's like a top down and side views. It is so funny. And it says, the Civic history goes on, ... So show that to your Integra or Civic friends if they don't know about it.